Hello, everyone. I'm Natalie Lopez. Welcome to this webinar. Today, we're going to be hosting an activity with Maribel Diz and Marcelo Fumasoni. We are waiting for them. So, thank you so much for being here. Um, basically, we are having some trouble with the platform. So I hope you get us like 5 minutes so Marcelo and Maribel are able to join us. There he is. I didn't have the time to introduce you, Marcelo.
Don't worry, Natalie. I'm so excited to be here and to share this space. And I'm very grateful for PDA for creating this space where we can, build, connect, and develop our HR community. Thank you.
Well, thank you so much for being here. For everyone to know, Marcelo is an international HR professional, and he has worked in global multinationals with a proven track record of finding the best solutions to complex organizational and multicultural diverse needs, and especially in a high matrix business environment. He's been also successful in building and developing an organizational culture based on innovation and collaboration. So that's why we have chosen him to be here with us. Very, very excited to share this space with you, Marcelo, with all your knowledge. You are working in Univision at the moment, and you have been there for how long? 2 months? 3 months?
Almost 3 months right now. I'm so excited. I'm part of the TelevisaUnivision group. Definitely for us, it's as Hispanics, you can imagine it's a great privilege to represent this organization. TelevisaUnivision is the world's leading Spanish language media company. We are producers of original content in Spanish. We serve our communities worldwide. Our portfolio, it's pretty much diverse. I hope that you have had the chance to see the candidates presidential debate on the Republican side yesterday, where one of our main talents on the journalism space, Ilia Calderon, was able to represent the Hispanic community and ask questions to the candidates to become potentially presidents of the United States.
Cool.
So that's a little bit our heritage. The company also operates, as you can imagine, not just in the US with main headquarters, but also in Mexico. And particularly, TelevisaUnivision is also the owner of ViX. ViX is the largest Spanish language streaming platform in the world. And I'm very also, proud and honored to be able to lead the HR function, reporting to our CEO, Pierluigi Gazzolo, on the streaming division. So everything related to streaming and digital core global distribution is in our, scope as HR professionals within TelevisaUnivision.
Wow, Marcelo, thank you so much for sharing some of your experience with us. We have Maribel also on the, there she is. Well, welcome, Maribel. We are very, very excited to have you here as well. Just for everyone to know a little bit about her. She is Senior Vice President of Human Resources in Visa. She's responsible for human resources strategy for the Latin America and the Caribbean. Correct me if I'm wrong, Maribel. And also human resources business partner for human resources worldwide. So hello, Maribel. Could you give us a little intro about you as well?
Hi, everyone. So great to be here. Finally, I was trying to log in, and I guess the firewalls at Visa are really, really strong, which is great because we do handle a lot of confidential information. So I'm glad it works. So I'm here joining you from my phone. Yes, I've been at Visa for 27 years now.
Wow.
And it's been an amazing ride, learning a lot, helping a lot of people, opening businesses in different countries, and anything and everything people related. I hope everyone on the call is familiar with our brand, and you are carrying one of our products with you as we speak. But
We
yeah,
are.
anything and everything HR strategy and anything that falls under the realm of HR kind of goes through my desk. So yes, really excited to be here. Also, have the pleasure to be with my friend Marcelo here on this great chat. So looking forward to sharing more and learning more.
Perfect. Thank you, Maribel. Well, I would like to tell all the audience that you can make all the questions you want in the chat. We are live on YouTube and also on LinkedIn. These HR lives are generally in Spanish, so we might also have people from Latin America. Welcome, everyone. It's the first edition of the English version. I'm Natalie. I moved recently to Miami, working with PDA, of course. I've been in PDA for the last 9 years. So it's been a long journey and a very, very excited journey for me too, to be able to represent PDA now in the United States. I'm from Colombia. So you can also make questions in Spanish if you don't feel comfortable that the three of us are bilingual, or at least I try to be. So thank you so much, guys, for being here again. The topic today will be leading with humanity. And the first question that comes to my mind is, what is your definition of leading with humanity?
Do you want me to start, Marcelo, or?
Please, Maribel.
Okay. So, leading with humanity is something that I've been kicking around for quite some time. I started referring to this as leading with the heart, and realized that that didn't resonate with a lot of my clients, especially those very highly analytical ones. They were like, "Oh, what's that? No, let's stick to targets and objectives, and leave the heart out of this. It's an area that I don't feel comfortable in." And then I thought, okay, well, how can I make this a little bit more appealing to a broader audience? And I thought, let's call it leading with empathy. And then I realized that it had not as a guttural reaction as leading with the heart, but similar, like empathy. Well, what is empathy? That isn't that what one feels when they feel sorry for someone, or, when they're in a very difficult situation. And no, I don't want to touch that. I just want to meet my targets, meet my goals. Then I thought, okay, well, that's not working either. So what about leading with humanity? And I find that this really, really resonated. And words matter. So it means the same thing, but we're disguising it a little bit different. And what that is in today's world that we're navigating, a lot has happened. A lot has happened as far as the workforce. A lot has happened as far as this thing called the pandemic that we were a part of during the past couple of years. And we are getting this new generation into the workforce, the Gen Zs, that are really looking for a different type of leader. And how do we best equip these leaders in navigating this world that we've just been thrusted in? And I figured, let's talk about humanity. Let's talk about how do we show up as leaders. Let's talk about what expectation we have of our employees when they join our organization. And at the end of the day, this will help motivate and retain them, because there aren't enough humans out there for the jobs that we have open. So it's no longer, oh, you can't fit into the mold of my organization. Well, then you don't have a job here. I'm going to find someone else, someone that has better skills. Well, that's not the case anymore. So we need to do everything in our power to make sure that we not only hire the best, but we continue to retain them. And how we lead them and how we guide them matters. And that's all linked to leading with humanity, which I'm sure we're going to double click as the session goes on.
Perfect. Thank you, Maribel. Marcelo, would you like to give us your definition of it?
Well, I will say that Maribel pretty much covered every single relevant point, right? I was preparing a little bit, some materials for, my landing in this new and great organization, TelevisaUnivision, and I was also trying to find out, okay, what will be the right approach to leaders? This is a young company. We'll love to create a big buzz in terms of the Spanish community. Streaming is pretty much a new kind of, multimedia digital industry. It has more than 20 years, right? It requires lots of innovation, creativity, collaboration, and up to a point, the possibility also to imagine the future, right? So when I was looking for, okay, what will be the right human elements, I was also finding out that the human-centric leadership approach was pretty much not in tune with our own challenges. And again, the combination to me will require to be an authentic leader, right? To show up as you are, right? And we are not perfect. We commit mistakes where we don't know everything. So the growth mindset is something that I try to acquire over the years as a way of doing things, and work with teams all along. So to be authentic, it's important to show yourself as you are and help others to be at your best, his or her best at the workplace. The second one to me, it's empathy, right? And Maribel pointed out, but not in the concept, hey, I feel sorry about you, but hey, I'm deeply interested in care for you, right? Caring in terms of how you are experiencing your life as an employee, in our organization. Are we listening, right? Are we reacting to this to the signals that we receive within the organization? So the empathy, to me, it's much more related to the care, especially when we are coming out of the pandemic. It's still something that it's still there. We're talking about return to offices. We're talking about how to be much more effective, collaborative, keep creativity and innovation flowing at the right pace. So I will say that authentic, I will say empathy, it's important. And probably the third one is much more related to the future, right? In the human-centric approach, or to be a human, I would say, centric leader, it's about how we can adapt ourselves, right? How we can rebuild our skills, how we can adapt to the different workflows that we are presenting. We used to have, in my book of things in HR, it was just you have your own workforce. Right now you have contractors, you have talents hired for specific processes or events. Then you have your established workforce, and you need to combine all those elements, and you cannot read with all of them with the same lenses. So if I have to summarize, it's important to be authentic, it's important to bring empathy, and it's also important to be adaptive and flexible to what the future will bring to all of us.
Natalie, can I double click a little bit on what Marcelo just says, which is so true, rings true. I did a lot of work when it came to millennials and Gen Z in the workforce. And when they were faced with the question of what type of leader is one that mostly resonates with you, they very quickly landed on inspirational. When I asked the leaders themselves, what do you think they want as a leader? They said motivational. And they're like, absolutely not. I motivate myself. I don't need anyone to motivate me. I need someone who inspires me. And then when I asked them to define that a little bit further, Marcelo, what you said rings true. They want someone who's going to care about them. They want someone who's going to be authentic. And when they say authentic, it's someone who is humble, someone that they can relate to, someone that is very quick to admit their own mistakes, because that humanizes them, going back to leading with humanity. So, and then you go to these leaders and you say, they want this list, and they're shocked because they've never had to do this before. When we grew up in the corporate world, we would never admit mistakes. We would fix things. We would never be humble. We would never lead a certain way, because that would be a sign of weakness. Well, the weakness is what is very appealing to this group, because again, in their eyes, wow, that person was courageous and went out and said these things to us. So they're one of us. They trust us enough to share. So they're okay in our book. That may be someone I want to follow. So it's really, really interesting how the lines are blurred because of this digital world that we live in. Long gone are the days where you kind of disconnect at night. Your one is always connected. So home and work life to them is all this big mess of one thing together. And they're looking for protectors. So they're looking for an extension of their parents in the workplace. So it just makes it a little bit more daunting to leaders nowadays to have to adapt to these new generation coming in. But that's pretty much what they're looking for. Now the good news is that leaders nowadays are Gen Xers, and we're the parents of these Zoomers or Gen Zs that are coming in. So we know how to manage them. And guess what? They know how to manage us as well. So I'm really excited of what's to come, and taking this to the next step of how do we really lead with the heart, with empathy, and how do we show up at work? Marcelo, right on.
Maribel, you mentioned that it's okay if we make mistakes and it's okay if we don't know something within the organization. Do you have, or can you provide any examples of inside Visa or any company you know or leaders who have been able to successfully integrate leading with humanity within their practices?
Sure. I'll give you a very personal example. Again, I mentioned I was one of those that felt I needed to have all the answers. And this is deep rooted. This goes back to when we're in grammar school. When we go to class, we need to know the answer. You get you get a check mark if you don't, and an X if you know, and an X if you don't. It's very binary. So when I entered the workforce, and everyone that was around me was the same, everyone needed to have the answer. So I'm sitting in this boardroom with a bunch of leaders, and there was this top executive that came to visit our region, and we were explaining something that was pretty simple for us because it's the world that we navigate. And this leader just didn't understand. And instead of going like this, shaking their head and saying, "Yeah, I get it," which is what most of us do, even though we don't understand,
Mhm.
he stopped and he said, "I don't get it." And I thought, what? So then they went around and they explained it again. Still, he said, "I still don't get it." Now, mind you, this is a top executive, went to a very top university, accolades, great track record. And at that moment, I thought to myself, wow, if this, what I consider to be a brilliant mind that has made it, can say, "I don't get it," he gave me permission to say, "I don't get it too." And the minute that I said that in a group, I felt liberated. I felt like this weight came off my shoulders. It turns out that other people in the room didn't get it either. And that's how I started to operate. In my team meetings, if I don't get something, I say I don't get it. And everyone in the room wants me to get it. So they will explain it to me. Sometimes when I get asked a question and I don't have the answer, I say, "I don't know." And those people in the room will want to figure that out with me. So it's not that hard. We just have to allow ourselves and give ourselves permission to be humble. And let me tell you, once you start, it's hard to stop because it feels great. And you realize that it doesn't make you less smart, it just makes you human.
I agree 100%. That reminds me of one of my, in my previous life, it was a very, I would say, a big dogma within the organization that they should know it all, right? That you should know the answers. If you are the leader, you have to provide that kind of clarity to others, right? But the world became so complex that it's impossible to do that. Even for a team well organized, it's impossible to attack just one problem, identify all the different points of resolutions. But the big shift was when we started to say, hey, why don't we move from organization that knows it all and it's very well known in the world by its ability to develop solutions to a much more humble organization and culture where we want to learn it all, right? And I was having a conversation, and that was a big shift and really helps. It took a lot of time to create that kind of movement, right? In terms of, hey, we would like to learn, we can fail, but as long as we learn and we can, adapt quickly, so we can react and serve our customers, we will be in a much better position. And yesterday I was having a conversation with one of our content creators, right? Most of the firepower that we have in streaming is the ability to create original content. So there is a big pressure, right, in the creativity side. Okay, where are the big titles? Where are the big scripts? What will be the next hit maker? And you have to go through, an exercise of trial and error until you find the right spot that will become. And it was very fun because we're finding the similarities and with one of my other life experiences when I was much more related to the pharma world. And hey, once you find the molecule, it could take up to 10 years, right? And you fail every single day until finding the right molecule where you can hit, all the resources that you have to start the investigation process looking forward. And with us, it's exactly the same. We have, tons of scripts, and we need, the bright minds to really find out how to adapt those, but not all of them are going to be, a super success. But we need to go through that dynamic to learn, right? And once you have that learning machine inside your teams, inside your mind, and I love what you said, Maribel, our business is to build and to create the best stories in the world so we can relate, right? It's when you connect your mind and your heart, right? When you can go through that, motion, it's where the magic happens, right? And for that, again, you have to give you permissions to fail as long as we learn. And definitely we can make it as a team. And I've been through many successful stories, right? Beautiful stories, especially in pandemic, where we try to we have to challenge ourselves to go through that kind of motion and say, hey, I cannot do this alone. I need help, right? That, I believe, was a turning point where we can all, I would say pretty much in sync, started to think much more on the human dimension with leadership abilities.
Marcelo or Maribel, do you have that, or do you think, sorry, there are steps or practical strategies, tactics that HR professionals or leaders can implement to create a more human-centric workplace culture?
Yeah, I think I will take the step, Maribel, and then I will. We can complement each other, right? Because I believe that we went through the same kind of challenges together, working for and serving communities in Latin America for many years. I think that one of the methodologies that really help, leaders or HR professionals to go through, I particularly find some success when you try to have a methodology around high performance teams, right? Because we are in the business, we need to deliver results, we need to create teams, we need to build capabilities, we need to predict the future. We need to start, thinking much more intentionally in short and long term at the same time. So when you have a high performance team kind of methodology, or I would say a way of doing things, to me, it's very important that every time that we tackle something that is important for the organization in terms of, resolving or anticipating, it's when you create those interactions with teams for 12, 18 months, you concentrate on how the team operates, you identify what you usually use the triangle in terms of the it at the vertex of the triangle, the we dimension at the bottom, and the I dimension as well on the other extreme. So when you see things with that kind of perspective, because what will happen is, okay, we love to solve things, right? As Maribel said, and I feel absolutely identified with that. Okay, what's the problem? I will fix it, right? And definitely you spend 80%, 90% of your time on the it, right? The budget, the planning, the forecasting, the workforce, the return to office, the ambiguity on operating with your current structure. Should I change? So that covers and drags the energy of any team 80 or 90% of their time. When you start to balance into the we, as hey, how we make decisions, what are the protocols, how many times are we going to meet, who is going to make the decisions, are we going to support other people's decisions as are part of the team, and we start to create that kind of motion. Okay, there is a part of me on the we that is represented, and it's also covers 20 or 30% of that time together. And on the other side, it's okay, the I, what's in it for me, right? I feel motivated. Do I relate to that project? It really makes sense. It's really connected to my personal values or not. I'm capable to do that, or should I step down, right? Because probably I don't feel that I have the skills, the time, the energy. Maybe I'm going through some personal issues. So when you start creating that kind of virtuous cycle, it's not just about what you need to solve, right? And usually you have techniques, you have meetings, you can create a workflow, you can identify roles, but with that perspective in mind, right? That it's not just to solve the problem without taking care, as we mentioned, the part of the empathy, the part of the authenticity about who we are and how we can be at our best together in a short period of time and deliver those results.
Okay, thank you, Marcelo.
For the record, the it, we, I is trademarked by Marcelo. That is his model. No one can take credit for that. So I'm going public with that statement right now.
Let's copyright that.
Yes, for sure. And that's his model. Now, absolutely. But I want to, how do we as HR practitioners make it a possibility for this to happen? I feel we have a lot of power. We have a lot of say as it relates to the culture of the organization and how we expect our leaders to act. And that's my job, right? The minute that I see a leader that is not showing up a certain way and is not demonstrating these values or not treating their people the way that we expect them to, I quickly pull them aside and we have a conversation. No egos in the room.
No egos.
No egos in the when there's an ego in the room, it just makes the conversation a lot harder. So we check it at the door and we have an honest conversation. And I feel that sometimes when we're in the craft of HR, we're kind of sheepish and we don't really tackle issues head on. We need to feel empowered and we need to understand that we need to harness that and we need to step up. The minute that we have these conversations the right way, right? Because we have to be human ourselves. I guarantee that that leader is going to look at not just the function of HR, but the individual differently. This person is really looking out for me. This person wants me to show up in my best. This person pointed something out to me, which I may not have realized, and I need to do something about it. And it's a very simple conversation. And I challenge each and every one of us to feel empowered to do that. That's one of our responsibilities as HR practitioners.
Sometimes, Maribel and Marcelo, I've heard HR professionals saying or worrying about the profitability of the business and how some leaders think that if they're leading with humanity or they're making soft skills type of decisions that will impact in the profitability of the business. What do you think? Do you think or how can we make leaders that are not into HR believe in what we say?
Oh, I love that question because, and Marcela, I know you feel the same way. The way that I position myself is that I'm a business person who happens to do HR.
I love it.
Right? That's what we do. We have a budget to manage, one of the largest ones, because we manage the most expensive asset on the P&L, which is personnel, people. So yeah, we go toe to toe with marketing all the time when it comes to the largest budget in an organization. Now, having said that, here's a little something I read in Glassdoor. We all are familiar in the US with Glassdoor. Glassdoor is one of these platforms where employees rate their companies. Now, according to Glassdoor, employees that have a strong onboarding experience have an 80% increase in productivity and a 70% in retention. And let's double click on retention for a second. The cost of hiring a new employee is somewhere between 100 to 300% of that employee's annual salary. Now, you tell me if we cannot impact the bottom line. And why do employees leave? They leave because of who they work for. It's been proven time and time and time again. And if they don't have that connection, they don't have that trust, or they don't feel that protection by their leader, they're going to walk out the door. There are more jobs than humans. I said that already. So there stands to be a huge, huge impact to the bottom line just by being a lousy leader.
Thank you, Maribel.
Totally, Maribel, spot on. I think that's probably today the only way, right, to be successful HR practitioners. Being so connected to the business reality and understand the mechanics behind it, and definitely we take care with leaders, right, because it's something that it happens that HR drives, most of the ideas, the processes, the projects, but it's, across the board, all leaders needs to act and be. I always remember one of my previous life that one of my bosses says, "Hey, I'm not your boss. I'm not the CEO of this organization. I'm the chief talent officer," right? So that's my business, to keep people, to keep the machine going and developing people, engaging people, appealing to the new audiences. And definitely that's the right mindset, right? For sure, we can double click on all the cost lines. And I believe that, in my life, it was, very important to do great partnerships with, finance, strategy director, so we can build, a plan together, the three of us, serving other leaders at boards or CEOs, saying, hey, this is how we see the complete environment, right? This is what we believe it will make an impact in our growth, in our profitability, right? I remember experiences say, hey, we're going to shift from distributor models. We're going to incorporate all, markets into our own machine. We are going to take care of our customers. We're going to get rid of, distributors in a good way, planning and and we're going to do a phase down so no one feels hurt, or no one feels, any consumer doesn't feel, that it's been, not well taken care of. But you have to plan for that, right? And when we were in one of those challenges, creating a new divisions, we find out, hey, we don't have enough internal people to do that. So we need to build that pipeline, or we need to borrow that pipeline from another place. And that pipeline, if you're going to borrow in such a short time frame, it's going to be absolutely engaged with our purpose. Are we going to be able to transfer the knowledge and the sentiment and the why to those people in a very short time frame? So we decided to speed up our own, talent pipeline and move the people that was prepared for some kind of roles from the timeline for 3 to 5 years to 1 to 2. So that means a massive allocation of resources into just one, place. So you have to build that, as a business person with the business, but thinking not just on the bottom line, but also how you're going to make that sustainable over time. So it's complex, it's large, it's something that, again, I've learned, going through my own mistakes over my years in Latin America, where I find out, leaders that has that kind of, connectivity with the human side, say, hey, this makes sense, right? It's a business sense, it's people sense. We want to make a legacy. We cannot make a legacy without sustainability. And of course, one of the main challenges that we have is when things doesn't go as well or as, perfect in terms of the direction that you set for yourself, because it's important to, go through higher goals rather than to go and not hit it, and rather than to go low, targets and then hit it because you get used to that. It's important that the mindset of sustainability, long-term approach, profitability, and people development goes together. And I think that over the years, I've seen companies growing in market share from being the 20th in the market to become one of the top 5, going through that kind of strategies.
Marce, so let me connect one more question. So, how do you see the future of work evolving in terms of leadership, especially in the light of the recent global events, and how we connect this with the topic of the of the conversation today?
Well, it's about not what Maribel says at the very beginning, right? We need to shift. I believe, remember these conversations 20 years ago looked like a little bit esoteric. Okay, what is this guy talking about, or this person talking about? No, he or she could look like, are you a human, resources professional? Are you a business person? What are you talking? This is much more spiritual, right? So now we can talk about spirituality at the workplace, and no one gets, surprised about that. I think that would really help us to help other leaders to go through that transition, depending on which generation acts they are, right? Because I've seen many executives saying, hey, I would love to go into that direction, but I don't know why. I cannot tell my team that I need to go through a restructuring. I cannot tell my team that this way of work needs to change, right? There are 2 elements, right? One is the speed and the velocity of change. It's completely different to what we have experienced 15, 10 years ago, right? Everything happens on the moment, right? We measure rating. We live for the rating. We need to convince other people, the advertisements through our platforms, they're going to reach the customers that they need. That consumption happens, but they are serving with a purpose those communities with relevant, elements that will help their lives, or in terms of being informed, being empowered, or being entertained. So you can imagine that the velocity requires that leader needs to act pretty much promptly, right? And we need to help leaders to acquire those abilities in a short time frame. And again, we need to go back to the basics, right? As a human being, which is preventing me to going through that, kind of experience as a leader, right? Where I need to show vulnerability, empathy, that I am an inclusive leader, that I can listen, that I can take the hit on something that doesn't go in the direction that we expected as a final result. So I believe that leaders today needs to have that kind of speed component into their own development space that they were not used to. And I guess that through coaching, through mentoring, where I see incredible results when leaders were exposed to younger generations and doing reverse mentoring, so they acquire insights from new behaviors of consumption, new behaviors expected at the workplace, being much more refined and accurate and intentional in terms of, okay, this is the purpose of our business, this is what we do, that's really related to who you are, who you like to be. So I think that those are the dimensions that within the leadership space we can impact better the community, so we can have much more consistency at the board levels, at the senior leadership teams, when we try to create a business edge.
Thank you, Marce. Maribel, would you like to add something about the future evolving for companies?
Yeah, the speed is definitely a component. And Marcelo and I, we work in technology firms, or we have worked, or there's some link to digitalization somewhere. We're going to see a lot of change. We're going to see a lot of change in the environment. We're going to see a lot of change with our workforce, our future workforce. We're going to see stability when it comes to what does this return to office look like. Well, we shouldn't call it return to office because we're already in the office, but this whole hybrid approach, or the way that we show up. Now, I do want to mention this, and it's a challenge that I want all of us as HR practitioners, and then some, to start thinking about: the output versus time. That has shortened tremendously. Why? Because our work week and our hours of work were developed back in the Industrial Revolution era, We have come a long way since then. And now I challenge, is a 5-day work week relevant? Is a 40-hour work week relevant? And this is very controversial, right?
Yes.
Super controversial, but I want to put it out there as a challenge, as how technology, as how digitalization is just impacting that. And we really should think about that, because you could have the same or more output of work, tangible, measurable productivity, not necessarily in a 40-hour work week. So this is not related to my company. This is just me, myself, something that I have been thinking deeply about. And how are we adapting to the workforce of the future? And what does that represent? And that's one thing that has been, you know, I've been kicking around in my head. Is that even relevant anymore? Now, understanding it is controversial. Let's think about that. And also, going back to what Marcelo said about leadership, I see it not just as a leader situation, although we've been spending a lot of time on leadership skills and abilities, and what we feel needs to happen for the future and how leaders show up, but also the employees. I feel that because in some cases, this new generation, this is the first job that they have a bit of unrealistic expectations, right? They feel that there's a sense of entitlement, there's a sense of what the company needs to do for me, not just what I need to do for the company. That needs to level set as well. And I think in due time, with experience and with working in different organizations and just getting out there, that's going to taper down as well. And I feel truthfully that leaders and this new employee generation, we're going to meet halfway, and it's going to be remarkable, and it's going to be amazing. So stand by. There's a lot coming.
Thank you, Maribel. Totally agree. We have a question in the audience. Lucas Mansi says he is Marcelo's fan. He says Marcelo's fan here. So hello, Lucas. Thank you for writing in our chat. Okay, he is asking, how about work-life balance when you really like what you do?
Mm. Wow, I always remember. I love to see a sports player, answering their life experiences or questions to their own, developing experiences. And I remember once I've seen Roger Federer in a community where he was asked about how you manage work-life balance. He was talking about what is that, right? And because I have to train, I have to go from Roland Garros to this tournament to this tournament. So everything is connected. And I have having kids, I'm traveling with my wife. I need my coaches. I have my fans. I have my charities. So everything is, meld down into who I am. So I think that today it relates to much more kind of work-life integration, especially that we have that kind of, possibilities to work through different platforms and be at the workplace, but at the same time answering, a family, request through WhatsApp, and some of your colleagues are going through a sort of predicament and wants to pull you through Teams. So you are experiencing that everything happens in real time in all three dimensions. That's again going to the I, we, and the it at the bottom. So I think that it's a personal challenge. We need to put the boundaries, right? Companies, our responsibility is to create a framework where, all of us can choose, okay, this serves my intention to serve my community through charity time. This serves my purpose because I can take care of, my elders. This kind of dynamic working at this time of the day, it helps me and I respect others, right? So I think that we need to create that boundaries for us and integrate those boundaries with other people's life. And that's the challenge, because we usually, especially in Latin America, we tend to say, yes, I will do that, I will take care of that, and we are piling up things, right? So prioritization becomes, really, really a good way of, producing your kind of project management life, right? And it's not like, okay, time for my family, time for the work, time for me. It's everything has been integrated. And that's responsibility number one for companies, creating a framework that really uh, appeals people to feel that, hey, I'm I have the possibility to make a free choice about when to put my personal time and my professional time at work. At the same time, it's an individual component. Say, hey, I need to make a decision. I am capable to manage this kind of time or not. Where can I ask for help, right? And I think that HR, companies, policies, the environment is much more flexible these days to listen to this kind of requests or circumstances and to adapt, right? But we need to tango, right? It's companies to create in the framework, individuals being accountable and taking full responsibility.
Thank you, Marcelo. Maribel, do you have any comment?
Yeah, I think we need to coin that work-life integration, because balance gives an illusion of 50-50, and it's not 50-50. It's not. Sometimes it's going to tip over a little bit more on the personal side because you've got something that you're dealing with, like Marcelo said, a situation with your parents, a situation with your children, a situation with you. And then other times, depending on what it is that you're working on and what time of the year it is, it's going to tip a little bit more towards work. So it's you finding your own balance. And that may be different for different people, especially how blessed are you, especially when you're doing something that you love. When you do something that you love, you lose total track of time and balance goes out the window. So yeah, I like that work-life integration better than balance.
Integration. Noted. Copyrighted too. Well, Marcelo, Maribel, we are getting to the end of our webinar. Would you or do you have any final comments for our audience about leading with humanity?
If I can just say something real quick on that, Marcelo, don't hold yourself back. Try it. I promise you'll like it.
Okay.
Very simple.
Take the risk, everyone, and try it.
Do it.
Totally. Let's go for that. And again, as we mentioned at the very beginning, it's just to connect, help leaders and help ourselves to connect our minds and our hearts and to be intentional every single day in everything that we're doing, right? We're making decisions all the time. So intentionality is something very important when we try to become more humans, right? We need to step down, reflect, not act immediately. So I think that it's a big step for all of us, right, in this work environment, and to create that kind of way of doing things in a very coordinated or with synchronicity, right? It's not going to happen as magic. It's a journey, right? There is no right or wrong answers, but intentionality, deep reflection about what is important, where are you going to put your energy, where are you going to put your time, are you helping others, are you true to your purpose, are really important, right? And when we help leaders to really do that connection, magic happens.
Thank you so much, Marcelo. Before we go, Juliana Kafka is making a question to Maribel. To Maribel, points of future of work, how do you bring an organization along to something that is viewed as radical, but in the future will be viewed as leading? For example, 4-day work, etc.
Yeah, that's an awesome question. And conviction. I feel that we have the power as long as we have the conviction to bring people along. So one of the things that I like, I know my audience really well. And one of the things that I like to position is the word pioneering. Pioneering is a word that a lot of people are drawn to because who wouldn't want to be first? At the end of the day, we all want to win. And I would start using those words and that backdoor psychology as far as what if, and you use hypotheticals and then just start planting seeds and bring people along. One of the things that has helped me be very successful when implementing a crazy idea is I go out there and I start to float these ideas with others. I go to my early adopters. And then I go to sometimes the very top, sometimes I go to the very bottom. Who cares as long as it starts to resonate with people? And pretty soon you have a following, and pretty soon you have a movement, right? So that's how I like to do things, but that's my secret. We'll keep it among friends, is bring people along, float the ideas, see if it resonates, and then figure out a way to make it work. And that has never failed me once.
Okay. Thank you so much, Maribel. We are going to keep that advice in mind. Well, thank you both so much for your time. Marce, do you have anything else to say? Do you
I,
want to share?
I just want to say thanks to you, Nat, and all the management team, the senior team at PDA for creating this space. It's really helpful to learn, to know that we are not alone in this world, that we can reach out to professionals, to friends. Maribel, I'm so grateful for the opportunity to share a great part of my lifetime in the region with you, learning from you, and big fan of everything that you're doing. So I appreciate that PDA is creating this platform, not just for us today, but for others to continue coming and sharing their, expertise and knowledge and wisdom, so we can all continue, learning and bringing new things to the table.
Thank you, Marcelo. Thank you, Maribel. I hope to see you soon, either in HR Lives or in person, or sharing another space with us here at PDA. And we thank you, everyone, for being here. Stay tuned for our next HR Live edition, English edition.
Thank you, everyone. Ciao,
Thank you.
Marcelo. Great to
Ciao,
spend time with
ciao.
you. Ciao, Nati.
Ciao,
Bye-bye.
Maribel. Ciao.